a weird growling noise, and we saw something walk from behind my horse trailer, and you could see the top part of it.
Okay, I see movement. Hard to make out what it is.
What is that?
Ronnie, do you recognize that sound?
We just got a tree knock.
I heard it clearly, whatever that was.
Yeah, tree knocks always happen when Bigfoot is around.
Deep in America's wildest places, from the rain-soaked forests of Washington to the remote lakes of Canada and the dark ravines of Pennsylvania, people are coming forward with the same story. Something is out there. Hunters, fathers, researchers, and even scientists have been stalked, surrounded, and terrified by a presence they couldn't see, but could feel. Footsteps in the night, rocks hurled at cabins, glowing lights and tree structures built like warnings. These are not campfire tales. These are raw, unfiltered encounters with something intelligent, something watching. Southeast Oklahoma has always been one of the most active Bigfoot hotspots in America, and in this final night of investigation, the team decided to go big, literally. After interviewing Charles in a previous episode and retracing his terrifying encounter, the crew shifted focus. Their next stop was to pick up Bobo, who had been out on his own camping trip. And as usual, he came with stories. "I was up at this old cemetery," Bobo said, "near an abandoned homestead. I had at least 2 of them around me. One ran through the trees. I could hear it stomping through the brush about 80 yards away. Then came the smell, that musky, wet dog squatch smell. No mistake. The team knew they had to get closer to the heart of the activity.
How'd you make out?
I was at a cemetery, an old homestead site near Daryl and Marilee's up there. Actually had squatches around. They came, there was at least 2 of them. One ran through the trees and brush, stomped like 80 yards away. Probably about an hour and a half after that, I got a couple strong whiffs of the squatch smell. Definitely squatch smell.
The 3 of us went there. We followed up with Daryl and Mary Lee.
They studied maps and discovered a huge national wildlife refuge running along the river that fed into Broken Bow Lake, the very lake near where Charles had his sighting. This swampy zone had likely never been explored by Bigfoot researchers, and it was the perfect place to try something bold. Bobo had an idea. He'd met a local worker who had access to a cherry picker, a massive lift that could raise a person 50 feet above the trees.
I talked to the guy. He's totally down for supporting the squatch cause. Then goes 50 feet up in the area. You can see over all these trees.
I'd love to be up at that.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be perfect for you, Matt.
If Matt's up above with a bird's eye view of the entire terrain and listening 360 degrees all around, I could be down below actually playing an instrument of some sort to try to bring the Bigfoots in, utilizing what we learned up here at Mary Lee and Daryl's house.
It's perfect. Bobo, you get a hold of that guy. Let's go get our gear ready.
All right.
The plan was simple but brilliant. Send Matt up in the air with a thermal camera and a 360-degree view of the terrain, while Bobo stayed on the ground using sound to try to draw the creatures in. As night fell, the team prepared for their final push. "This is it," Cliff said as darkness settled over the swamp. "Our last night here, let's make it count."
This is it, our final night investigation here in Southeast Oklahoma, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. Matt can start his cherry picking thing, I'll start my guitar picking thing, and you guys beat your feet in that direction. Cherry picker gives Matt a huge advantage over anyone on the ground. His calls will go further. He can direct the other team by watching them on the thermal imager, and also he can hear things that I wouldn't be able to because the sounds would be absorbed by the forest itself.
The crew lifted Matt high into the air. The cherry picker groaned as it rose above the treetops, giving him a perfect vantage point. "Wow," Matt said, looking over the dark forest. "This is where I belong. I feel like I'm in a lighthouse." Then the real work began. Cliff started playing guitar-like tones to provoke curiosity. The sound echoed eerily through the trees. The forest, usually alive with crickets and frogs, seemed to hold its breath.
I think I found my place in life. This is where I belong, up on a cherry picker.
I must have lived in a lighthouse in a past life.
Okay, Cliff, let her rip.
Okay.
Okay, Cliff, Matt radioed down. Let's see if anyone answers back. Then it came, a long, bone-chilling call from deep within the forest. Everyone froze. Bigfoot call, answer, Matt whispered over the radio. Another call followed, closer this time, and the team felt the hair on the back of their necks stand up. Something was out there, something big, and it was responding.
Okay, here comes Renee answer. Dang, that was good.
This final night investigation had everything: cutting-edge equipment, a perfect location, and a real-time vocal response that echoed through the night. Whether it was a curious Sasquatch or something else entirely, the Oklahoma forest had just spoken back, and the team knew they were closer than ever. Night descends over the Oregon wilderness like a heavy curtain, the forest turning into an ocean of black. For Mireya and Ronnie, this was exactly when the real work began. They had spent days investigating a strange tree structure discovered deep in the woods, a twisted, deliberate arrangement that looked too intentional to be natural. Tonight, they were going no holds barred. The plan was simple: position Ronnie near the tree structure with a thermal camera, while Mireya perched up on a nearby ravine, giving her a higher vantage point to watch for movement. Together they would use recorded Bigfoot calls, howls captured in Kentucky that had previously drawn something terrifyingly close, to lure the creature back.
Tonight, the game plan is we're gonna go no holds barred. We're bringing everything we have. I'm gonna be positioned by the tree structure with a thermal camera.
Okay, I have the IR camera ready to go.
Okay, I've got my eyes on you from up here.
All right, sounds good.
Darkness swallowed the last traces of daylight. The forest went silent. No birds, no frogs, no wind. Mireya queued up the call and blasted it into the night. The long, mournful howl echoed through the trees, reverberating in every direction. For a moment, there was nothing but stillness. Then, crack! A tree knock rang out from somewhere deep in the forest. "Did you hear that?" Ronnie whispered. "Yeah," Mireya confirmed. "Tree knock, that's always a sign."
Ronnie, do you recognize that sound?
We just got a tree knock.
I heard it clearly, whatever that was.
Yeah, tree knocks always happen when Bigfoot is around. It's believed that Bigfoots communicate by hitting branches against the trees. And every time I've heard one, weird stuff comes with it.
She played the call again. This time, 2 knocks answered back, closer than before. Ronnie felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. The air around him seemed to hum, an electric tension that made his heart pound.
Did you hear that? That was 2 sounds now. That sounded closer to me. I'm scanning to your left, scanning to the left.
The hair on the back of my neck is standing up like crazy. There's electricity in the air. I can't describe it, but this is crazy.
Then, everything began to go wrong. Ronnie's thermal camera suddenly flashed white. "My camera just died," he said. "I'm running blind out here." Moments later, the temperature dropped sharply. The forest was unnervingly still, so quiet it felt suffocating. "I feel eyes on me," he muttered into the radio. "Something's coming." Branches snapped somewhere ahead of him, deliberate heavy footfalls closing in. Whatever it was, it stayed just out of view, just outside the range of the thermal Mireya still running.
My camera just died. It just got extremely cold around me right now.
The forest just went dead silent.
I got branches popping. I got something coming towards me now.
Well, whatever it is hiding from my thermal.
There's definitely something around here.
I'm not picking anything up.
Then came the lights. Right in front of him, a white light appeared, small at first, then pulsing, dancing just above the ground. "You should be able to pick it up now," Ronnie said, pointing. "I've got movement on thermal. Wait, it's gone." Mireya's voice cracked through the radio. Just like that, everything vanished. The sound, the heat signature, the light, gone as if nothing had been there.
A white light directly in front of me. I'm going to point to it now. You should be able to pick it up on the therm.
Yeah, something's going crazy on the thermal now. The trees were all lighting up and flashing on my screen right now.
Very weird. Do you still have the heat signature?
Oh my God, it's gone.
"Let's sweep the area," Mireya said, and they began to search with flashlights. But there was nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no trace of what had been moments away from walking into their camp.
Any prints down there?
I don't see anything.
There was absolutely no trace that anything had been there. Given all those sounds that we heard, this is something that I find really difficult to rationalize. That was the strongest evidence that I saw that something different was out there, and then it was just gone. There's nothing here.
Hours later, as dawn neared, teammate Russell was investigating a nearby clearing where his trail cam had been destroyed. Using his thermal, he picked up small animals moving: foxes, rabbits, deer. Signs that the forest was coming back to life, no longer holding its breath. But for Ronnie and Mireya, the night's events left them shaken. Something had been there. Something intelligent enough to stay hidden. Something powerful enough to kill their equipment. Something that wanted them to know it was close. Keystone State Park has always carried a strange reputation. For decades, locals have whispered about shadowy figures in the woods, eerie screams at night, and even strange attacks on campers. In fact, between August and December of 1973 alone, 13 separate Bigfoot-type reports were documented in this area. Events so bizarre they were chronicled in Stan Gordon's book, Silent Invasion. It was here, in 2007, that John Redchin found himself alone in the park, camera in hand, searching for answers. "I was back here looking for tracks," John recalls, pointing toward a stretch of thick woods just beyond the dam. "It was raining a little, so I was crouched down, filming, and just about ready to shut the camera off. That's when it happened. Crack."
It was all parted and pushed up, and I have it on video. I had a couple nice tracks.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was filming them, and then I went down in. It was a little light rain going on, and went down in the ravine, and nothing happening. It got real thick, and I'm on my knees like this in the weeds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of here. And just as I said that, I'm gonna shut this off. I was filming like you're doing.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, crack.
A loud snapping sound ripped through the silence. Close. Too close. John froze, heart hammering in his chest. Then another one. Bam! He says, his eyes wide even all these years later. Whatever it was right in front of me, maybe 40 or 50 yards away, but I couldn't see it. The brush was too thick.
Shut this off. Go through it. Whoa. The hell was that?
bam, another crack, when another one. It was like, bam, yeah. It was really loud, man. It was right in front of me, and I couldn't see, and I'm on my knees, you know, and it's raining, and I'm like...
How far away do you think it was?
I'm guessing probably 40, 50 yards, probably.
Wow, pretty close.
John tried to push forward, but the forest seemed to resist him, the undergrowth growing almost impossibly dense. And then, as suddenly as it began, the path opened into a small clearing, and that's when he saw it. Right there in the open was an X made from 2 big logs, he recalls, not fallen by accident. Placed, crossed perfectly, like a marker. For researchers, these so-called X structures have long been linked to Sasquatch behavior, believed to mark territory or serve as a warning.
I don't know if you ever heard it. Yeah, it was pretty close.
Yeah.
I couldn't get through the area, and I kept trying. And what was weird was I did get through, like I said, it was all like brush, and I'm coming through, and I did get to the section where it was like open, and then there was this X.
Yeah.
It was an X where I'm like, you know, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you know, like a tree that looked like it fell into an X. It was pretty much.
Standing in the rain, with his camera still rolling, John felt something watching him from the tree line. Something big. What makes this encounter even more chilling is how it mirrors decades of sightings in the same area. From horses bolting in terror to campers reporting something banging on their trailers, Keystone has always been a hotspot. John's story is just one piece of the puzzle, but combined with the park's history, it's enough to make you wonder who or what still calls these woods home.
First of all, I thought it was a ghost. And then I go in and tell my wife, I'm like, I don't believe in ghosts, but what I saw was a ghost. It was something. And she's like, how big was it? And I'm like, told her, and she's like, that's the gray one Chuck saw. So right away, I ran to the back porch, and it was, whatever it was down in the woods behind her house.
Footage. Courtesy. Small Town Monsters. Location. Ford Pinto National Forest, Washington State. There is something about the Pacific Northwest that feels alive, and not just with elk, bears, or coyotes. This is the land of deep silence, where the forests seem to watch you back. Jay Birch and his wife Monda know that feeling better than most. Their story, told on location near Mount St. Helens, is one of the most chilling testimonies ever shared about Sasquatch. It was a September weekend, Labor Day, when Jay and Monda set up camp in Ford Pinto National Forest, near the tiny town of Cougar, Washington. Their favorite spot was already taken, so they drove down to a clearing just off the road and decided this would do. The area was perfect, quiet, isolated, with enough space to set up camp and a fire. It was raining on and off that evening, and Monda had to leave for work the next day. Jay stayed behind alone.
Because we had heard noises out here. We had heard whistling and a weird growling noise, and we saw something walk from behind my horse trailer, and you could see the top part of it. So it was a black shape of some kind, and it walked from the horse trailer behind the barn.
The campfire crackled, and Jay opened a beer, letting the forest sounds lull him. Then came the sound that changed everything. A single, heavy stomp from the darkness. At first, Jay's mind leapt to something ordinary, maybe an elk. But deep down, he knew. Something about that stomp carried a weight, an intelligence. He quietly placed his gun and his knife on the table, not to threaten, but to show whatever was out there that he wasn't looking for trouble.
I sat over there, and I just kept my eye over here. I had thrown like 3 bundles of wood on this fire, and I waited, and I finally felt like I could come back over here. So I did. I came back over here. Not much more than a minute after I sat down, footsteps happened, loud footsteps. So I tried to keep from panicking, and I just stood up and grabbed a few things and walked back over there again like nothing happened.
Minutes later came another stomp. Jay moved closer to his tent, the unease growing. As night crept in, the sounds became heavier, loud footsteps circling his camp. The trees seemed to sway unnaturally in the firelight. Jay fought the urge to panic, clutching his knife, staying alert. Then came the sound that chilled him more than anything. A low, continuous humming. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal sound he recognized. It felt deliberate, resonant, like something was announcing its presence. Jay climbed into his tent, soaking wet from the rain, heart hammering. He refused to sleep under the covers. He needed to be ready to cut his way out if something tried to get in. The humming continued for hours, a constant reminder that he was not alone. He pulled out his phone and, in a moment of raw fear, recorded a message for Monday, telling her he loved her, loved their kids and grandkids, and that he wished he had been a better father and husband. He was convinced he wouldn't survive the night.
I was just frightened to death. I was frightened. This really affected me for a number of years. I thought I was going to die. I made a video with my phone telling her that night how much I loved her, how much I loved the kids, my grandkids. So we need to stop.
At one point, Jay saw something extraordinary, a glowing orb floating silently just a few feet above the ground. Instead of fear, he felt calm, as if the light was there for him. But whatever was in the trees kept humming, kept reminding him that he was being watched.
But I was still screwed up enough that I yelled in the tent, "I can't handle both of you," that type of thing. But that's the only time in my life before or since I've ever seen anything like that. Anything. But they kept that humming thing going and going and going.
As dawn neared, a loud, bone-shaking yell echoed through the forest, ending in a scream. And then, silence. Jay stayed put until daylight, finally forcing himself out of the tent. The tension in the air was thick, almost unbearable. He burned all his soaked clothes in the fire pit, bathed himself in a pot of water, and tried to calm his nerves. The birds slowly returned to the forest, and he even heard strange, clumsy imitations of bird calls, as if something was mimicking them from the tree line.
The tension out here, when I stepped out of that tent, the tension was so thick you couldn't cut it with a knife. It was like if you have to work with somebody you don't like, or you're having a lot of problems with, and you got to work side by side. That's how I felt. It was that thick. And I just stood here and I kept talking and I kept saying, I just don't care.
Then he saw it. A massive red-colored figure stood partly hidden behind a tree, only its shoulders and one arm visible. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Jay froze, the weight of the night flooding back over him. When he returned later, the figure was gone, but he knew exactly what he had seen. Jay's testimony is one of the most intense ever documented, not just for what happened, but for what it did to him emotionally. Even 8 years later, standing at the very spot where it all happened, he struggled to tell the story without breaking down. Whether or not Jay was ever in mortal danger, one thing is certain: he believed he was. And that fear, that raw human emotion, is why his encounter remains one of the most haunting accounts of Sasquatch behavior in the Pacific Northwest. Footage. Courtesy What Not YouTube channel. Location: East Texas. Sometimes the scariest encounters don't happen deep in the woods. They happen right outside your window. This is the story of Matt, a father from East Texas, who says he and his family have been dealing with something terrifying since the very first days in their new home. When Matt moved in, he expected the usual challenges: fixing up the house, settling into the neighborhood. Maybe some noisy wildlife. What he didn't expect were the floodlights going off every night between midnight and 1 a.m. Or the strange, overpowering smell, like a wet dog, mixed with something musky and foul, that would drift through the yard. Then came the footprints.
Sounds like you're having some unwelcome visitations.
Well, me and my family were from East Texas, and a couple months back we moved in and stuff started to happen here.
How long ago after you bought this place did stuff start happening?
Almost immediately. Put up a couple of floodlights, and the floodlights between 12 and 1 would always go off, and we get this kind of strong, overpowering smell. Wet dog kind of musk, just a musk like wet animal. And it came out one morning, and I noticed that I had these giant footprints from the grass.
One morning, Matt stepped outside and saw them. Enormous tracks pressed into the damp grass, each nearly 17 inches long. That was the moment the thought crept into his mind. Could it be Bigfoot? He installed cameras immediately, hoping to catch whatever was lurking outside. But before the cameras could even reveal anything, the scariest moment of all happened.
Starting to enter our mind. So I put up cameras. Shortly after that, the most scariest thing that happened involved my daughter. I came into the kitchen to get a glass of water one night, and then my daughter comes running out of the bedroom, and she goes, "I know you're trying to sneak on me."
And it involved his daughter. One night, Matt walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water, when his young daughter came running out of her bedroom, frightened. She told him she knew he was outside the window trying to scare her, but Matt wasn't outside.
She said, you're right outside the bedroom window.
So your daughter thinks that you're like playing a joke on her, trying to scare her, but you're like, not me.
Her bedroom window was broken, with a piece of cardboard covering it until repairs could be made. And right then, right in front of Matt's eyes, that cardboard was slowly pressing inward.
So I came over here into this room. This house was a real fixer-upper project. The bedroom window was actually busted out. So we had a piece of cardboard up over the window. The cardboard was being pressed inward into the house.
As if something massive was standing outside, pushing its weight against the house. Matt froze. The window went black. Whatever was out there had been watching his daughter. "I'm a father too," interviewer Bryce said during their conversation. "When it starts to involve your family, it gets personal," Matt nodded. For him, it already had. He went straight to the camera footage, and there it was.
It's almost like something standing right outside, but whatever it is, it's got to be massive because it's blocking the whole
taking
window.
Up the whole window.
The whole thing just moved and then went back to black. Whatever was standing there was watching her.
I'm a father too. It's one thing for me to sort of experience something strange, but when it starts to involve my family, then it gets personal.
It definitely does. And when I looked at the cameras, and when I did, we caught something on film.
Matt, do you have that video?
I do have that video.
Although the quality of the video wasn't perfect, you could still see it. A massive dark shape moving outside. A large hand visible for just a moment as it gripped something near the house. And the unmistakable outline of a head peeking around the corner. "Dude," Bryce said, chills running through him. "That's huge. That's massive. I can see why you're concerned." This was no trick of the light. This was something real and big.
Okay, I see movement. Hard to make out what it is.
You can see something starting to come around.
What is that?
Matt led Bryce outside to show him exactly where the footage had been taken. The roof line above the window is 9 feet high, but in the video, the figure's head is almost level with it. Whatever was out there was likely close to 10 feet tall. "Just standing here," Bryce admitted.
I mean, typically, you hear stories about Bigfoot avoiding people, but it sounds like here in Washington, people like Matt, myself, and my team are experiencing similar behaviors where Bigfoot is intentionally approaching structures or spaces that humans are using.
"With my back to the forest, I can tell you, we don't come out after dark. That's when Bryce introduced a chilling theory. These might not be the shy, elusive Sasquatches people usually talk about. These might be rogues, solitary, aggressive Bigfoot that approach human homes, break patterns, and aren't afraid to be seen.
Are these Sasquatches just curious? Or are these those rogue Sasquatches that I keep hearing about? And are they viewing us as a threat?
For Matt and his family, that idea was far from comforting. This wasn't just curiosity. This felt like harassment. The family never knows when the visits will happen. Sometimes it's footsteps on the porch. Sometimes it's the floodlights tripping with nothing visible in the yard. And sometimes it's worse. Like the night his daughter thought her father was outside, only to realize it was something much bigger. Matt loves his home, but even he admits that the constant stress has changed the way his family lives. They never step outside after dark. They keep the windows tightly shut. And every night, when the floodlights go off, Matt wonders if tonight will be the night the creature decides to do more than watch. For anyone who has children, it's easy to understand why Matt is so shaken. Seeing the fear in your kid's eyes and knowing something out there is looking in, that's enough to make any father feel powerless. Matt and Bryce ended their discussion with a sobering thought. This may be one of those cases where the safest thing to do is pack up and leave, because whatever is lurking outside seems to have no plans of stopping. Footage. Courtesy. Ontario Sasquatch. YouTube channel. Location. Snellgrove Lake, Ontario, Canada. There are places so remote that when you finally get there, you know you're standing in one of the last untouched wilds on Earth. Snellgrove Lake, tucked deep in Canada's north, is one of those places. You can't drive there, you can't hike there. You can only get there by float plane. And once you land, you are truly alone. For miles in every direction, it's nothing but water, rock, and endless boreal forest. In the summer of 2006, a crew from Monster Quest flew to this isolated lake to film what they hoped would be a groundbreaking expedition. They wanted to capture evidence of Sasquatch, the creature locals had whispered about for years. But what they experienced was far more terrifying than anything they were prepared for. One of the crew members, part of the audio team, later shared his story. And even now, years later, his voice still carries the tension of that night.
Okay. How about you? All right. I was part of the audio crew for the History Channel last year, and we were posted in Snellgrove filming a TV show called Monster Quest.
It was late, maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. The team was gathered by the fire, relaxing after a long day of filming. The wilderness around them was silent, except for the occasional call of a loon in the distance. Then, everything changed. The witness had gotten up to step onto the porch when, whoosh, a rock whizzed past his head, so close he could hear the air split around it. It slammed into the cabin wall with a thud. Startled, he ran back to the fire and shouted to the others.
And it was getting late. It was probably 2 in the morning, maybe 1 in the morning. And we were all sitting by the fire, and I had to pee, so I walked to the porch. And right before I was about to go, a rock got whipped at me, just missed my head. I heard it whiz past my head and hit the cabin, right next to the cabin, and almost hit the window. And so I came running back to the guys over there.
Everyone had heard it. Even Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who was inside brushing his teeth, had heard the rock hit the wall. The group quickly gathered near the cabin, flashlights scanning the tree line. For a moment, there was silence. Then, another rock, this one arcing high through the air, landed on the roof of the cabin with a loud crack. At that moment, fear took over. "There's nothing in the woods that can throw a rock," the witness said later. "Nothing with hands, except us."
And I was like, I just got a rock whipped at me. You guys hear that? And everyone heard it. Jeff Meldrum was in the cabin brushing his teeth. He heard it. And so we all started sitting by the cabin. We waited and waited. All of a sudden, we saw a rock come flying over the cabin, hit the top of the cabin. And at that point, we were just totally freaked out. Because there's nothing in the woods that can throw a rock. There's nothing that has hands.
They went inside, securing the doors and windows, and waited. Hours passed. The fire outside burned lower and lower. The crew member sat by the window, watching, his heart pounding. By 3 a.m., the fire had gone out completely. The darkness around the cabin was absolute.
So we went back inside, and I was really scared at that point. I could not sleep, and the fire was still going, so I was watching out the window to see if anything would walk by the fire. And waited and waited. Probably 3 in the morning, the fire started going out. Finally, it went out, and I was like, all right, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to go to sleep. So I was just about to fall asleep. 15 minutes after I was about to fall asleep.
That's when the loudest sound of the night came. Something hit the side of the cabin so hard that it shook the entire structure. For a split second, the crew thought something was trying to break in. But when morning came and they inspected the damage, they found a massive piece of cordwood lying against the wall. Something had thrown it, with enough force to wake everyone inside.
All of a sudden I hear this loud bang on the cabin. It was so loud. I mean, at first I thought something was pounding on the side of the cabin or tried breaking in. But in the morning we looked and we saw it was a huge piece of cordwood that got whipped at the cabin.
Think about that for a moment. This lake is 200 miles from the nearest city. There are no roads, no hunters, no stray campers. No one else was out there. Whatever had been throwing those rocks, and now logs, wasn't human. The witness admitted he was terrified. "I was so scared I was shaking," he said. "I thought I was going to have a panic attack. I couldn't sleep until the sun came up."
When you're out there and you know that you're the only people out there, and rocks and logs are being thrown at you, so your mind starts running wild, like, what threw that? And I was so scared, I was shaking. I thought I was gonna have a panic attack. I was so scared, and I could not sleep. I didn't sleep until the sun came out.
That fear is what makes this encounter so chilling. This wasn't a campfire story told secondhand. This was Doug Hodgachek's own son, the producer of Monster Quest, sharing what happened to him personally. His voice cracked as he described the events, his emotions still raw after all these years.
Your mind starts wandering, because you know it's not a caribou, you know it's not any other animal, bear, nothing can throw stuff, nothing, it had to be something with hands. And we know it wasn't another human, because there's no humans. You can see when you're flying in, it's just all fours for miles and miles.
And the truth is, the evidence they gathered that summer wasn't conclusive. This was before drones, before high-resolution thermal cameras, before DNA analysis had become as precise as it is today. But what they did capture was real. The sounds, the rock impacts, and the genuine fear of trained professionals who knew the difference between a bear in the woods and something else entirely. Snell Grove Lake remains one of the most mysterious hotspots in North America. To this day, people still talk about the rock throwing, the pounding on the cabin, and the feeling of being watched in the dead of night. Was it Sasquatch defending its territory? Was it a warning to leave? Or was it simple curiosity from something that wanted them to know they weren't alone? Whatever it was, the crew left Snell Grove Lake with a story that would become one of the most unnerving accounts in Bigfoot history, one that still gives people chills nearly 2 decades later. Some nights in the forest feel different. The air feels heavier, the shadows stretch farther, and even the firelight doesn't chase away the dark. On this night, Angelo and his friends camp deep in the woods, far from towns, far from safety. They came here to relax, but the forest had other plans. It starts quickly, almost too soon.
Yeah, we're pretty well out here in the bush. I am meeting up with a friend of mine, and we're going to be camping. We're camping in an area known for Bigfoot, paranormal stuff, all sorts of interesting things, and apparently it's pretty scenic. So far driving out here, there's, not a lot of cell service. It kind of cuts in and out. Apparently once we get in there, our cell service is, for the most part, pretty shot.
As the group sets up near the lake, one of them points across the trees. A dark shape moves where no person should be. It walks upright, tall and heavy, slipping between the trunks. For a moment it almost looks like a man, but the stride is longer, the frame broader. Angela whispers that it's not a bear. It looks more like an ape. The sight leaves them quiet, wondering if their night has only just begun.
I just saw something on the other side. Over there.
Whoa. Yeah, you can see it walking out of there.
Yeah. Wow.
It looks...
That is not a bear.
No, not at all. But it also looks like an...
The hours pass with unease. Laughter fades, replaced by listening. Then, from across the still water, a sound rises. It is not the cry of a bird, not the splash of a fish. It is a grunt, deep and drawn out, carried by the night air. The friends exchange nervous looks. Some say it could be a bobcat, but the weight of the sound feels larger, heavier, as though something hidden is calling from the other side. As the fire burns lower, another disturbance shakes them. From deep in the trees comes a rhythm, sharp and deliberate. Wood on wood, echoing through the darkness. Not once, but again and again, like a signal meant to travel. The sound doesn't belong to the wind. It doesn't belong to chance. In Bigfoot research, this is called knocking, a way of sending messages. Here in the still forest, it feels less like research and more like a warning.
For a second, I thought I saw eyes. Okay. What was that?
Like that cat sound kind of thing?
You know, apparently bobcats have been spotted in Ontario recently.
Really?
Yeah, like no joke. Apparently they're around.
What about mountain lions? Are there any?
That's the same thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No, bobcats are different.
It's essentially the same thing. Same concept anyways. Mountain lions probably not. Yeah, probably more like cougars, bobcats.
But there is
But
fishers.
either way, they're dangerous, so...
I like cougars.
Okay. Did you find one?
They try to calm themselves, but the forest grows bolder. A crash tears through the night, like something heavy snapping branches or shoving a tree aside. The ground trembles faintly beneath their feet. Angelo and the others freeze, eyes wide toward the tree line. Whatever made the sound is large, strong, and close. In that moment, the fire seems too small, the woods too endless. By now, the group knows they are not alone. Shapes seem to flicker at the edge of the trees. Sounds move where the light cannot reach. One of them swears they see glowing eyes, shining faintly, then vanishing. Another hears a low moan drifting across the peninsula. Fear grows, but so does wonder. Could this really be the creature they've heard about for years?
Like I can actually see like a long neck. I don't know if it's like the light's playing tricks on my eyes, but I see something up there.
Yeah, you can see a lot of things came through here too.
Oh, guys, no, seriously. Oh. Look, shine your light up there. Shine your bright flashlight deep up there if you can. Is it my eyes playing tricks on me? Because I see it moving. Yeah, there. See, now it's kind of gotten dim because the tree's in the way.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell.
The night does not give them a clear look, only signs. Movement in the brush, grunts in the distance, knocks that carry meaning. And yet these pieces feel enough to raise the old question. Is Bigfoot only a story, or does it walk these woods when the night is deep enough? Sometimes the answers don't come in full. Sometimes they come in fragments, in sounds, in glimpses that leave the heart racing. And maybe that's the way the forest wants it, to remind us that mystery still exists, waiting just beyond the firelight.
Or it was actually Bigfoot. But we heard a grunt, we heard some sticks, and I freaking saw the thing.
Wow.
Let's go to my laptop right away.
Okay.
Alright, so you're saying you saw something somewhere down there? I'm using an infrared camera.
Yeah, let's fill out with the infrared.
Infrared. Sorry, I don't know why I call it infrared.
You mean the infrared?
Infrared.
Well, dude, your flashlight is so bright.
So what do you think Angelo's group experienced? Was it wildlife at its loudest, or something much bigger watching from the shadows? Out near Mount Hood, the forest feels quietly alive. The air is damp, carrying soft whispers from the trees and the steady sound of a nearby creek. Today, the team is setting up a circle of trail cameras around base camp. One camera is placed by the creek, because if animals are drawn to water, maybe something larger is too. The forest feels patient, almost watching. Each tree seems to hold a secret.
All right, there's one of our base camp game cameras, kind of using this tree next to it to help shield and hide it from two animal trails that merge right here. It's obvious the animals are coming to the creek to drink near base camp, so we'll keep an eye on that.
As the cameras are placed, the team moves carefully, respecting the woods. The trail is soft and muddy, perfect for footprints. In a swampy area, impressions start to appear. Some are small and familiar, others larger, deeper, and mysterious. A spot shows signs that something heavy rested here recently, leaving the soil pressed down and leaves scattered. Even the smell of skunk cabbage reminds us how alive this forest is.
In this real swampy area, looking for Bigfoot tracks, because the normal forest ground, it just don't show up as well, but they step in something like that. Well, something bedded down right here. More ones right there. That smells like skunk cabbage.
Tracking takes patience. Large paw prints appear, clearly from a bear, claws visible, weight evident in the depth. But bears and Bigfoot often share spaces, drawn to water and food. Nearby, a giant front paw imprint confirms a black bear passed here. Yet the team knows this is only part of the forest story. Each footprint tells of life moving quietly, hidden and careful. Deeper in the woods, clusters of broken branches and root balls catch attention. The forest keeps its secrets well, blending nature and mystery in every step. Giant trees tower overhead, their shadows shifting with the wind.
Well, I get excited when I find bear tracks, because Bigfoot and bear are after the same thing, and a lot of times we find their tracks in the same areas. There's a giant one right there, Jen. Look at that giant tree. It's just massive. I mean, it's surrounded by big trees, but he's a giant.
Observing the forest is about learning its rhythms as much as searching for the unknown. Each bear track, each broken branch, each subtle shift in shadows is part of the story. Perhaps one day we'll see more clearly what roams here. Until then, the forest quietly teaches patience, respect, and wonder. The day ends, but the forest continues its rhythm. Cameras click silently, water flows steadily, and the woods remain alive with movement. Every footprint, every branch, every shift in shadow is a reminder that nature's story is never fully told. The forest invites curiosity, respect, and reflection, leaving the mystery of its hidden life both compelling and real. Some answers may come, but the quiet wonder of this forest will endure. There's a quiet mystery hidden in the vast forests and rugged landscapes of Australia. Few people know that this continent has its own version of Bigfoot, called the Yowie. For centuries, Indigenous Australians have shared stories of a large, hairy creature moving silently through the bush, both feared and respected. These stories are not just tales, they are part of a rich cultural history that stretches back thousands of years. Aboriginal tribes have their own names for the Yowie. In New South Wales, it is called the Dagal. In Queensland, some refer to it as Jima or Changara. Far in the north, the Kuku Yalanji speak of the Quinin, a large, hairy being living in the dense rainforest. Across these stories, there is a pattern. The Yowie is often described as strong, bipedal, and intelligent, yet careful to avoid humans unless threatened. This consistency makes you wonder, could there be something more than just myth lurking in Australia's wilderness? European settlers began encountering strange figures as they explored the bush in the 1800s. Reports of wild men, or hairy creatures, matched the indigenous stories in many details. One of the earliest recorded encounters came in 1842 near what is now Sydney, when settlers saw a tall, dark, human-like figure moving through the trees. Later, naturalists like Henry James McCooey in 1876 described the yowie in careful detail, noting it was neither a gorilla nor an orangutan, but something entirely unknown. These early accounts laid the foundation for the mystery that has continued for generations. Ancient rock art adds another layer to this story. Some of Australia's oldest petroglyphs show large, upright creatures with long arms, thick hair, and human-like features. Found in New South Wales and elsewhere, these images are over 5,000 years old. Elders say these carvings capture encounters their ancestors had with the yowie, blending both spiritual and physical understanding. It's fascinating to imagine that people centuries ago were documenting something that may still roam these forests today. In modern times, sightings have continued. From 20th century encounters by soldiers and prospector Charles Harper, to video and thermal footage captured as recently as the 2000s, the evidence is intriguing. Researchers like Rex Gilroy and Dean Harrison have spent decades collecting eyewitness accounts, footprints, and images, building a detailed picture of this elusive creature. Footprints found in Queensland, some over 16 inches long, show features consistent with a living primate, rather than any known Australian animal. Even skeptics struggle to explain all the reports together. What makes the yowie so captivating is the combination of history, culture, and first-hand observation. From children being chased in Springbrook to park rangers spotting massive figures in the distance, the stories continue to emerge. Each report adds a thread to a tapestry that stretches across centuries. Could there really be an undiscovered primate wandering Australia's remote forests? The evidence is compelling enough to keep both researchers and curious explorers asking questions. The yowie remains one of the world's most mysterious cryptids. Its story is part legend, part science, and part the deep, quiet wilderness itself. While we may never have all the answers, the combination of indigenous lore, historical accounts, footprints, and modern footage makes it hard to ignore. Perhaps one day, new technology or patient observation will reveal what has remained hidden for so long. Until then, the yowie stands as a reminder that the world still holds secrets waiting to be discovered. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk through an Australian forest, knowing something large and unseen is nearby? Could these stories be more than myth? Or is it all imagination? Share your thoughts and experiences, and let's keep exploring the mysteries of our world together. It's quiet in southern Alberta, back at a spot called Cow Corner. The trees stretch high, and the forest feels alive but gentle. He has been here a few months ago, leaving small gifts for those who visit these woods. Today he is curious to see what might have changed, and Blue is with him. The dog is eager, alert, and ready to explore. The air is soft, carrying a hint of smoke drifting from distant fires, and the forest smells fresh and earthy. It's peaceful, yet there is a sense of presence, something more moving quietly in the woods. As he starts down the narrow trail, the ground is damp, leaves glistening, and small branches tucked into the soil. Blue moves ahead, sniffing, ears twitching at sounds barely heard. Occasionally, a distant cow's low call echoes, or maybe it is something else moving quietly just beyond sight. The forest seems to speak in subtle ways, the bending of a branch, the soft tap of wood underfoot. Every small detail draws attention, making it clear that Cow Corner is full of life that cannot always be seen.
So this is interesting. Seeing something else here, guys. I'm spinning around. Okay, folks. Getting back in here to the thick of it. Blue's getting tuckered out already.
Reaching the gifting area, he notices small changes from the last visit. a Y-shaped stick wedged between trees, a sitting log not where remembered, and stones that may have been moved or taken. There is a gentle, musky scent in the air, a quiet reminder that the woods are visited. He leaves a few gifts, red plums, cranberries, and raw almonds, tokens of respect. Blue enjoys his treats, chasing squirrels and sometimes startling at noises far off in the trees. Each snap and tap keeps him alert, yet calm, aware that the forest has its own rhythm and stories.
I don't remember that. This is my sitting log right here. I don't remember that big log laying there. And then one little blue.
The creek near the gifting site murmurs softly as they cross. Water always seems to attract life here, and the forest seems to pause around it. He takes a slow walk back into the thicker trees, noticing small patterns, stones in rectangles, slight clearings, and subtle signs of previous visitors. Blue moves carefully, sensing things that may be missed. As the light fades, smoke from distant fires drifts across the forest, softening shapes and colors. The woods feel alive, quietly observing them as they leave, the small gifts left behind as a sign of respect and curiosity. Heading back toward the main road, the shadows grow longer, and the sounds of snaps and taps continue softly on both sides of the trail. It's a peaceful conclusion to the visit, yet full of questions. Who else passes through Cow Corner? What messages do these small offerings hold? The forest keeps its secrets, but in these quiet walks, he witnesses a little of its magic. Blue and he move gently through the trees, leaving the woods as they found them, alive, mysterious, and quietly welcoming. The trail to Bigfoot team moved quietly through the Florida forest, stepping softly over damp leaves and moss. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the swamp, and the air smelled rich with earth and water. They had come back to a familiar area, curious to see if anything had changed since their last visit. Their mission was simple: leave a few offerings, observe, and respect the forest around them. Near an old refrigerator tucked among the trees, the team carefully placed some food and a small tennis ball. Every movement was gentle, deliberate, meant to show curiosity without disturbance. The forest seemed to hold its breath, alive with soft rustles and the occasional distant bird call. Then, faint but clear, came a subtle knock from deeper in the trees. He paused, aware that something intelligent might be nearby, watching quietly from the shadows. They adjusted the cameras, capturing the scene in a wider view.
I just left some stuff. The main thing is we left a tennis ball behind.
I feel like I'm leaving offerings to the gods or something, you know?
We don't mean anybody no harm. That's all we just want.
Mosquitoes hovered around, but the team barely noticed. Their focus was on the forest's subtle sounds: a stick snapping, a leaf shifting, a quiet tap that might have been a Bigfoot investigating their offerings. The feeling of presence grew stronger, not threatening, but patient and aware, like an unseen guest observing their care and respect. Moving cautiously along a narrow path, they listened to every sound amplified by the thick forest. Another knock echoed, this one sharper, closer. The team stayed calm, allowing space for whatever was there to remain undisturbed. Moss draped from the trees, and the swamp's murky water reflected the fading light. The offerings remained untouched, yet the sense of acknowledgement lingered, a quiet confirmation that something had noticed their presence.
That's Mark moving. Now let's go ahead and go. All right, we're gonna leave. I'll see about filming my rear.
The group began to step back toward a small clearing, scanning the shadows with care. Branches whispered overhead, water gurgled in the distance, and every rustle suggested life moving just out of sight. A gentle knock sounded again, reminding them of the patient observer nearby. It was not an aggressive presence, only curious and watchful, responding to the respect shown by the Trail to Bigfoot team. As the team moved slowly out of the dense swamp, They glanced back at the scattered offerings and the mossy forest floor. Nothing had been disturbed, yet the encounter left a lasting impression. The forest was quiet, holding its secrets, while faint taps and subtle sounds lingered in their memory. The team left with a sense of wonder, knowing that some mysteries are best met with patience, respect, and quiet curiosity. The swamp stretched behind them, shadows deepening as twilight set in. The Trail to Bigfoot team walked carefully, aware that these lands were home to creatures rarely seen. The faint knocks and whispers of the forest stayed with them, a gentle reminder of a presence that watches without haste, leaving more questions than answers, and an enduring respect for the mysteries of Florida's wilderness. From Texas backyards to the isolated Canadian North, from Oklahoma swamps to Pennsylvania trails, the stories may come from different voices, but the warnings are the same. Something powerful, intelligent, and elusive is moving through the shadows of our world. It watches, it approaches, and sometimes it leaves behind signs that can't be explained away. Whether you believe or not, one thing is certain: the wilderness still holds secrets, and the truth about Bigfoot may be closer than we think. Until then, stay alert, stay curious, and remember, the forest is never truly empty.